All right, check. We are back. Round of applause for yourselves. This is your guy Marcellus Ease in episode 6. Man, we got a few things on the docket for today. Interesting times that we are in for sure. Now, in the last episode, I talked about generational pivots to maintain the generational wealth. We're always hearing about the new billionaire here and there, but we never hear about the families that come down that ladder, that loses that status. And in the previous segment, I touched base on Sherry Redstone and what she's going through with Paramount Pictures. Seems like she's trying to sell off her company while at the same time not having enough leverage to sell for the evaluation that she's looking for. Her family's going to have to pivot out of that traditional broadcast television and just maintaining all those studios and networks like Nickelodeon, BT, MTV. All those things in this age of streaming, especially if you're not Netflix right now, it's real expensive to maintain these things. Netflix has a hell of a head start in the streaming game, not only being the first dominant player to market, but at the same time, they have a formula that's working for them real well with them developing their content, especially in the past 7 years. So Sherry Redstone and her family, they have not pivoted and just didn't look beyond the horizon to see what's coming along. And right now, with the multi-billion-dollar valuations that they have for their company, the heads at Wall Street are not necessarily looking at her company expecting just to bail them out at that same evaluation that she's expecting for. And another example I want to go over is the Bob Marley family. Right after their father had passed away a few years after, the family being so large and kind of had to maneuver around not only people trying to backdoor them with all the brothers and sisters and stepmothers and just family members just trying to get a piece of that Bob Marley pie, but that family had to be in unison, in sync, to make sure that they don't sell off what their father had built, especially with his image, because that does happen. A prime example of that is Muhammad Ali and his image. It is not controlled by that family. He sold it off well before he passed away, and due to unfortunate circumstances of him taking off time from boxing, the way he was kind of blackballed, he didn't have the leverage to maintain his image. But right here, we're going to hear directly from Rohan Marley on some of the inner nuances of the family trying to pivot and make sure that the legacy that their father had built stays under the family's name. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
You worried about paying your way through college. Your father's name is worldwide, bro. You worried about a scholarship, bro. It's like, your dad is Bob Marley, bro.
I know, it's not as easy as you think. Because when we were children, you know, when my father passed away, we never had a will. He didn't, he never wrote a will, so he had a trust. So the government in Jamaica, they wanted to sell all his rights. So it was my sister Sidala and Mama Rita of age, Sidala, of age, and she was the one to fight for it. And we as the children, I was getting ready to go to school. We had no money. Everything was frozen. You know, my dad was only making what? Let's call it, what year? Like $2 million is SD was at the time. So it was frozen. Lawyer fees, this, that, and the third. All we had was our father's rights, his likeness and his music. And we did not sell that. And at no time we were gonna sell that. People offered us, what year was this? $20 million. Michael Jackson, good loving Michael. We went to Michael and said, hey, Michael, you know, could you help us? We need some money. We don't have any money and they're trying to take our. Michael said, no, I'll buy it. Michael said, no. MCA wanted to buy it, this one. So no, Chris Blackwell, the guy that everybody don't like, he loaned us the money, the family. We were able to buy our father's rights because when they sold it, they gave the children the first rights of refusal. So we had the money at the time. We brought up the money.
So y'all had to go raise the money to buy the publishing rights back.
The publishing rights and name and likeness, because they were selling it. Because my dad didn't, they were gonna issue us oh, well, we sell it for this one, that one, we issue you your...
Royalties.
Not royalties at the time, they're selling it.
Yeah.
It was one check.
One check. Damn. So we're like, okay, you know what? We'll buy it.
Right.
We ain't letting you buy our dad's rights. And so my sister, Sedella.
But yeah, was it your sister because like, back in the day, that was a thing. That was over a lot of people's heads, a lot of artists' heads when it comes to publishing. Now we hear all the artists. So was it your?
Well, no, it was my father, because my father, when it's almost like you can't. It's like this man worked so hard in his whole life to separate himself, to find his own independence. We could never be his children to give that back to people. Pardon my French. So at that time, we would never put our father's name and likeness or rights into anybody else's hands. So that's what it was about then.
And that's for them to do whatever they want with the name and likeness too, as we see Colin Kaepernick be compared to Muhammad Ali through Nike. As in reality, there's no comparison between the two, because what Kaepernick did was actually favored by the media. So he did not necessarily receive any backlash from the media, but nothing but support. And Muhammad Ali, what he did was completely different. He went up against the whole system in general, from the American government all the way down to the media. Completely blackballed, and financially, it kind of ruined him for a bit. But there are multiple layers with what Rohan said just now, from the Jamaican government trying to sell pieces of his rights away, to the kids actually having the first dibs on buying the rights. As you can see here on the higher part of the totem pole, there's multiple layers to this. The likeness, the copyright, the royalty, the image. If they could, they would sell off each letter of the alphabet in their father's name and give them no money with it. That's how dirty it is out here, man.
Say your father, and recognizing that your father fought so hard for his independence.
All right. Okay, let me return to that. So his independence was being like an independent artist. So he was with an Island Records, Chris Blackwell, again, the founder of that. So he wanted his independence, so he created Tough Gong International. So that was his independence, Tough Gong International. So we couldn't then take, we could not then take Tough Gong and put him back into that system, you dig? Mm-hmm. He already removed himself. So how can we go back? No. Not for money, not for nothing. So
respect.
Yeah. So that's why today it's us. Bob Marley, and it wasn't handed to us. We had to like.
Before you go to the next question, let me ask you this, because you talked about back in, the 80s, sure. Mike, and so many others offering to buy the publishing rights to your father's music, right? Yeah. And name, image, likeness.
And we did it. We bought it. We, the children.
Can I ask, what was the biggest, offer y'all got?
I mean, $20 million at that time, $25 million.
Now ain't nobody even approaching y'all. They know what time it is. So y'all, they not like, we ain't even.
Right. You see the change, you see the watch. I know how much that watch costs.
Yeah, that family does not play when it comes to people trying to sell off merchandise with their father's name and image. They do not play. They'll come after your ass and sue you. Trust me, I know, because I used to work for a clothing company, and the Bob Marley stuff was off limits. Believe that.
You know how much that watch costs too. That was a gift.
Yeah, this is not from the daddy.
But that's a whole nother conversation, though. I was talking to a mentor. He's a billionaire. He took this pharmaceutical company. It was a dual approach, right? Dual approach meaning they were either going to IPO or they were going to sell private, right?
Sure.
My mentor, he said this when he was interviewing them.
Yeah.
He said, when I took over my family's business, we were at 1 billion.
Yeah.
He said, we're at 10 right now.
Okay.
So I ain't inherit nothing. That's what he said, right? So there's so many things we can talk about when it comes to.
I mentioned that number. In 1984, what the estate was worth, $2 million by the multiple. At the time, a multiple would have been the highest bidder. It's 20 million at a multiple of 10 or something.
Right.
So that's, what we say, no, if it's worth. My sister's no fool. She's like, If it's worth 20 million to you, it might as well be worth to us.
But Ro, you bring up your sister.
Sure.
You bring up your sister.
Family.
You have a lot of family. Pops, I watch documentaries. I'm gonna ask you about fallacies, but I watch documentaries. Pops had a fleet.
Well, I can tell you the number. You watch the documentary, I can tell you the number.
He had a
7
fleet?
boys and 4 girls.
7 boys, 4
That
girls.
ain't a
But how
lot.
many?
That ain't a lot.
Well, I mean, I guess, let's see. Yeah,
How many? Yeah, how many women? That's what I'm saying.
Brendan Marshall said that's not a lot, but it is a lot when it comes to dealing with their father's estate. That's a lot of voices you can get to. A lot of people could be swayed in a different way. Hey, let's make that 2 million. We don't have anything. That's just a lot of coordination that has to happen with the family in itself to make sure that these deals go right. Because even at multiples of $20 million in 1984, when you're dealing with their father's image, which is worldwide, it's more than just 20 million in 1984. The multiples could have been 100 plus.
I'm gonna give you.
I'm sorry, my bad.
And remember, okay, but we're talking about Bob though, right? Like,
That's Bob.
And at that age, let's not judge this man. This man did all this work. He left this earth at 36 years old.
You just talk about your sister kind of taking the lead on your father. It's really your father's estate is what it is. But how was that dealing with that many people?
There's no dealing with that many people.
You got to deal with that many people.
One voice. In our family,
Who was that one voice?
We don't work that way.
Yeah.
We don't work that way. We work by hierarchy. There's no, I mean, as much as we like it, we're hierarchy.
What predicates that hierarchy? Is it age?
Yeah.
It's
Big
age.
sister,
Is everybody
big brother. That's how it works. And that's the business that we have.
is everybody in that hierarchy respectful of
It was like
age?
that since you didn't know yourself. You know, I mean, yeah, of course I want my independence as a man. I want to do my own thing, you know. Yeah, so we don't buck the system. We just like our father did.
And them having that system is really what saved them for just quickly trying to sell off their father's whole legacy for $2 million. And them just kind of keeping it all together, not bucking the system. That's a large family for everyone to be just in unison and respecting that hierarchy. But we got to respect it because they definitely came up and they were able not only to maintain their father's image, but to also make sure that their father's work and legacy was able to feed his family going forward. And that's something that never gets really talked about too much, is that a lot of these legacy billionaires are just these titans of industry, whether it be music, art, production, natural resources, farming. As soon as that person that built that empire passes away, we don't really see too much what goes on. And like I said in my previous segment with Sherry Redstone and what's going on with Paramount Pictures, the company that her father built, it seems like she's taking advice from a lot of different people. As she's all over the place, she wants to sell, she can't sell, she wants to get a higher number. It's just all over the place. But to see the way I don't want to say trust fund babies, or just the way the second generational inheritance, the way it gets maintained is really important here. And we don't really get to see that too much, but generational wealth does definitely require generational pivots. And speaking of pivots, there's a lot going on with Drake right now. Just him being an artist where he came into the game at a right time. There was only a few years out from CDs kind of being obsolete to music going into iTunes with the iPod. And then eventually when he hit his prime years, streaming came about. And he was sort of built into that algorithm, built into that system. And he was able to secure exclusive deals with Apple, come up 20 million just off that one album views, which to this day is still complicated to stream on Apple and on YouTube. Because even though in the Apple deal was for 5 years, there was an exclusive just on that album alone. And a lot of that money was tied into just Drake building up that whole Apple Music, just with the promotion and sales being tied exclusively to that Apple platform. Make no mistake about it, Apple sold a lot of iPhones so people can just get that app to stream that album exclusively. But now he's at a crossroads. He's been on top of the game in a culture that does not necessarily have someone who can remain at the top past a 5 to 7 year span. But this guy has been on the top for about 15 years. And once again, he's almost built into the algorithm that other popular or top tier artists have to tie him into their music in order to stream. And a perfect example of this is Travis Scott. Now, before the initial diss track came out with Kendrick Lamar and Future, listen to Travis Scott before the whole world knew what the track was. Be excited for Metro Boomin and Future to play this track at Rolling Loud. Once again, Drake being tied and built into streaming is creating a lot of interesting circumstances. Trav seems like he doesn't even fuck with Drake, but he has to fuck with him.
Just play that. Oh, man. Please, bro. I'm sorry, bro. Metro's trying to get out of here. You want the album right now, nigga?
Yo, Trav, man. Travis. There's a lot of things going on in between the lines. And during this whole beef, now we're seeing reference tracks leak out. And it's tying other top tier, I don't want to say artists, just top tier influencers, celebrity, athletes. It's tying them all into this. Because Drake, in his initial beef with Pusha T and Kanye West, has sat down with LeBron James, making his first appearance after the whole world found out that he had a kid. And they sort of curated this narrative that he went back in the studio and made new tracks for his upcoming album, and he added those in last minute. And Mav Carter and LeBron James kind of hyped up and promoted that one of their best tracks was one of his revenge tracks on Pusha T and Kanye West. You guys check it out, and every once in a while I'll check in.
Lift Yourself comes out with him just talking nonsense. This guy's trolling me. Yeah, he's this was like a manipulative, like, I want to break you thing. So I said, all right, I'm gonna go back to distancing myself again. I know what this is. And then the first album drops. And of course there's a diss song towards me you produced that's talking about writing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm writing for you.
I was just there with you as friends, helping you. And now you're dissing me. So I'm like, man, this is dark.
This is evil shit.
This is dark. It made me realize, and actually I text Braun after
you guys spoke about it.
Well, it took me 4 days.
Now notice Maverick Carter kind of narrating the whole situation. Oh man, this is interesting. Like I said, this whole Drake beef, there's more people tied into this whole shit. It's not just LeBron James, it's also Nike. Nike's tied in. They got money invested into Drake. He can't lose.
Is to really register what had happened. And I text Braun, I said, I hope I don't let you down with my decision. And that was something I was really concerned about.
With your decision to do what, Drake?
To not do anything. To not respond. I was more concerned about, like, you know, the people whose opinions I respect and the people who we thrive off competitive nature.
Of course.
But there was, you know, people love to say, like, rap purists and people who just love confrontation, they love to say, hey, man, there's no rules in this shit, but there are fucking rules in this shit.
No, there's not no rules in this shit when you mention somebody's wife. Yo, Drake, you know that already. You see, these guys are treading a very thin line because they understand what part of this culture is about, but yet they're the corporate versions of that. This is the genius about corporate America, especially in the marketing landscape that we're in today with social media being tied in. They want you to kind of tether this line in between being a representation for the everyday or just the masses of people, while at the same time staying in between the lines and remaining that corporate universal image that they can market throughout the world. And that's where Drake and LeBron James find themselves. LeBron James cannot be too woke because his image has to work around the world being a Nike representative. The same way you see Michael Jordan doesn't really say anything about any topic. When you get to that Obama, Michael Jordan, Mount Rushmore of just being any type of celebrity, you got to be a universal figure. So you taking stances, It's almost impossible. You cannot take stances and be a corporate figure for an international global company like Nike. This interview right here has a lot of Nike affiliation right here. The biggest current day athlete in LeBron James, and also one of the biggest pop stars on the planet, Drake. Both Nike assets.
Of course.
And I'm gonna tell you something. It's like, I knew something was gonna come up about my kid. They had to add like the deadbeat thing to make it more appealing, which is fine. I understand that. And even that, I was like, okay. The mom and dad thing, whatever. You don't even know my family. It's like some, but I'm gonna tell you, wishing death on my friend that has MS.
Come on, Drake. You mentioned the man's wife. He never mentioned no one in your family. Come on, Drake. What are you doing here?
I study rap battles for a living. Now, when you mention defenseless people who are sick in the hospital that passed away, that really sent me to a place where, you know, I just believed then and believe now that there's just a price that you have to pay for that. It's over. You're gonna get, someone's gonna fucking punch you in the fucking face. The shit's done, the event's over. I wanted to do other things. I didn't want to further your reputation or your career by rapping back at you and having this exchange. And that was it for me.
And Drake texts you and like, am I letting you down?
Look at Maverick Carter, man. He pointed at LeBron James. Did I let you down? And this is the part right here that's going to come back to bite them in the ass. Because this right here is them acknowledging that one of Drake's songs that he went back in the studio to write is one of their all-time favorites. This is them hyping it up. Just for the track during this Kendrick and Drake beef to come out as a reference track written by somebody else. This stings right here.
Yeah, what did I tell you?
What did you say to him?
You said that I can never let you down. By the way, I did. By the way, I did.
Yeah.
By the way,
Yeah.
You wrote the song.
I did,
Yeah.
and I said terrible things.
Now, notice you heard Mav Carter. You wrote the song. Let's hear that again.
By the way, I did.
Yeah.
By the way,
Yeah.
You wrote the song.
I did,
Yeah.
and I said terrible things.
You wrote the song and never put it out.
Yeah, because I got home and I just listened back to it, and I was like, man, this is not something I ever want to be remembered for. This is not even a place that I necessarily want to go. And to all the people who enjoy that, I tip my hat to you. By the way, hell of a chess move. The song, I thought it was trash, but the chess move was genius. Back against the wall, I either go all the way filthy or I fall back, and I have this sort of chink in my armor for the rest of time to a rap purist, which is fine. I can live with that.
No, he can't. No, he cannot. Drake has always had that top 5, top 2, and I'm not 2. Remember all that talk? This bothers Drake. Drake wanted that Jordan status, that undefeated record going up against these guys.
You know, I would much rather live with that than the things that I was about to, the research I did, the things that I was gonna say, and the places that I was gonna go, not only for him, but the other guy too, you know? And now,
that other guy is Kanye West.
I feel pure, I'm good.
You feel good?
You know, yeah, and you know what I did? I took that energy, just like you said, I took that energy and I put it into me, not you. You don't get that.
You told me you didn't have certain songs on Scorpion until that.
I didn't have In My Feelings. I didn't have Nonstop. I didn't have.
What's one of our favorite songs, Mavi? Now.
Oh no, LeBron! Don't do it to yourself, because now in 2024, this right here is gonna come back to haunt you.
Sick of these niggas.
Oh my God!
I didn't have Mob Ties.
Oh, I'm sick of
these
them.
niggas.
I'll hire some help.
Yeah.
Get rid of you niggas.
Let's do it. It's a
Get
rap,
rid of
baby.
you. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You hear from the source himself, but unfortunately for Drake right here, that reference track had leaked out, and everything about it smells that someone completely wrote this track in mind for Drake to use it. First, I'm gonna do the original.
Hey, sick of these niggas. Sick of these niggas. Hire some help. Get rid of these niggas.
And now the reference.
Sick of these niggas. Hey. Sick of these bitches. Hire a shooter. Get rid of these bitches. And I'm on my riches. I turn out the bitch. I turn out the bridge. It is what it is, sure. Black push, cause that Lambo moving fast. Watch your homie if he movie on his ass. In the rocket and that bitch ain't got no tax. Louis bags in exchange for body bags. Yeah. Sick of these niggas. Stick these bitches, huh? Sire shooter, huh? Get rid of these bitches, huh? Fuck what it was, hey. It is what it is, yeah. And I'm with the shits. It is what it is, and I'm so tired. Yeah. I fuck with the mob and I got ties.
That right there. I fuck with the mob and I got ties. That right there is giving it away that he wrote this track for Drake. Vori does not have any affiliation to mob ties down in Houston, but Drake does. Drake's been rapping about it ever since, if you're reading this, it's too late, but that's his way of letting people in the industry know that he has backup. But again, as you heard from LeBron James and Maverick Carter on The Shop, they narrated this storyline as if Drake went back in the studio and added additional songs to his album Scorpion to get back at Pusha T and Kanye West. And Drake added more context to that narrative by saying that he went back to the studio and took that energy and added it in for himself, not to them. This shit right here really hurts Drake. All the ghost writing, like this track right here was a blow. I don't know whoever's leaking out these tracks if they had this in the tuck, but this is a blow right here. I mean, just Vori mentioning mob ties, you can tell this is beyond a reference track. This track was written for Drake.
Yeah. They'll knock you off and pay their ties. Yeah. They want me gone, but don't know why. Yeah. It's too late for all that hubba-dubba shit. I'll tell you my brother shit. That's why I'm done giving in. That's why I made myself a man. Oh, yeah. Say, yeah. It's too late, it's too late, it's too late for all that. Too late. Yeah. I'm not with a rah-rah. Yeah, I fucking a dollar. I got a dollar. Done dollar. Sound in the solder. Shout on the head like bottom. I'm sick of these niggas. Hey, I'm sick of these bitches. Sire shooter. Get rid of these bitches. I'm sick of these niggas. Hey, I'm sick of these bitches. I hire a shooter. Get rid of these bitches. Fuck. Too late. Yeah. Yeah. Red beam on his mouth. Look like he been drinking Kool-Aid. Yeah. Yeah. Told her if she slept up on me, baby girl, now it's too late. I told her if she slept up on me, baby girl, now it's too late. Yeah. It's too late, too late, too late. No. Say.
Yo, I'm not gonna lie, fucking Vori was sliding on that track. Woo-wee. That boy was going in. But once again, this puts the whole industry in a tricky ass bag right here, because there's so much tied to Drake, and I think he's really built into this whole infrastructure as an artist who can't afford to lose. He has Universal Records backing him up, Lucian Grange, Nike, Spotify, Apple Music. All these things are built into that whole overall Drake brand. And none of these entities are tied in necessarily into hip hop culture. They're just conducting business and making the revenue off of it. But they don't necessarily care about the cultural impact and how the culture overall changes every 3 to 4 years. To have Drake sitting up top of the genre, to have Drake sitting on top of the genre for 15 years is very inorganic. It's like when you go to the grocery store and you're looking at the ground beef or just some of the chicken. Some of that is organic, but it's mixed in with the inorganic. And that's Drake right now. With this beef with Kendrick, it's almost like now the audience is seeing how much inorganic has been mixed into that meat. And once you find out how the meal is made, you never look at it the same. And for hip hop culture, it's always been a shift of energies. There's never been a consistent flow of just the same thing. It's very inorganic to the culture. But that's exactly what corporations want when it comes to any product. They want it to be the #1 product for a certain time span until they can't milk it no more. So in a way, this whole beef with Kendrick or just going up against Drake is inorganic to their bottom line, which is organic to the culture itself. It's just very tricky times that the hip hop culture is in right now, but it is a culture of energy which goes up and down. There should never be a consistent sound, style, or just person sitting on top of the genre. But in 2024, when it comes to the tech companies, that's what they're looking for. That's what the algorithm wants. This person likes blue hats, we're going to feed them blue hats. People who wear blue hats listen to this song, we're going to feed them this song. The tech companies and the large mega international corporations are looking for that type of consistency. This is just a whole clusterfuck in itself. But we'll see how this plays out. And just touching up on inorganic shit, this whole fight with Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, there's a whole WWE aspect to this. First of all, in the past several years, they've sort of built up the Jake Paul and Logan Paul caricatures in the boxing world. Very similar to what we see the wrestling entertainment business does with certain superstars coming through the ranks. You may see them fight through cruiserweight, then middleweight, then they might make a little co-main events in the pay-per-view. Then the following year, all of a sudden they're a main event act. They've been slowly doing that and building on top of that Floyd Mayweather post-boxing retirement celebrity prize fighting. But just that overall market was introduced by Floyd Mayweather and just perfected by him. He took that pay-per-view audience that he always had and translated it into a whole new industry. And most of it is really entertainment. But now Jake Paul and Logan Paul on the business side have done a great job of just perfecting it into a whole nother level where 80 to 70% of this shit is fake. They're lining these guys up against boxers who not really boxers, guys who are converted from mixed martial arts into boxing. It's just a weird state. Guys that are almost about to retire, get out of fighting or aged out. But this situation with Mike Tyson, the original fight was supposed to take place on July 20th. Mike Tyson is 57 years old, man. Come on. He eventually had a medical issue on a flight on May 27th. And I'm not sure how real this is, man. Once again, a lot of this shit is WWE. You could even look at the Netflix promo for the Tyson Jake Paul fight. It just looked completely mastered and just all the graphics. There was a lot of money put into this shit, man. This is some real entertainment, scheduled, pre-planned entertainment shit going on. And a complete money grab. And at the same time, this is a proof of concept for Netflix that is getting into the business of live sports. The NFL is going to get their crack at it with Christmas games, I believe, for the next 2 years on Netflix, which is a perfect way for the sports industries to gain access to a global audience without going through the pay-per-view route. And at the same time, on the back end, which I know the NFL is going to fight to get, is access to the information on the audience. What are they watching? What time do they watch? What kind of products do they consume? The data collecting business is another industry in itself. And for more insights on Netflix upcoming plans, let's take a quick look at what Pablo Torre and David Samsung, former president of the Florida Marlins, who has knowledge in these type of sports dealings, let's take a look at what they had to say.
Go back to Ted Sarandos, who's the co-CEO of Netflix. We've been talking about the macro of this, and Ted Sarandos said this in July 2023, quote, "We really think that we can have a really strong offering for sports fans on Netflix without having to be part of the difficulty of the economic model of live sports licensing." That was the second quarter earnings call in 2023 of July, in July of 2023. Is that now looking, what does that say to you now?
Every earnings call is different, and earnings calls are like when managers meet the media. You're only responsible for what you say that particular day, and it can change the next day, and you can keep your job. And Netflix clearly has a different view, much like when we talk about Turner in the NBA. If they try to bid over $2.5 billion, then David changed his view. So I'm okay with that being different a year out.
How do you guys see Netflix as an entity compared to Amazon, compared to Apple, when it comes to their potential to just outright be the winner of, now let's call it the evolving economic model of live sports licensing?
I don't see those three, any of those either going away or merging themselves away. So I've always thought of it as a three-legged stool with Apple and Amazon and Netflix. I've always been concerned and thought about the other streaming networks and how they'll all consolidate and where they will end up being owned. And we've started to see some of that. But what is interesting is that Netflix and Amazon, what is happening differently, they all have different risk tolerance over what they want to do. I would argue that what Netflix is doing with the NFL, there is no risk involved. What Amazon did with the Yankees, there is greater risk. What Amazon did with Thursday Night Football, doing it every week, there was greater risk. So Netflix is still, I view them as the most conservative, but I don't view them as a candidate to have a problem.
And Netflix has also perfected the streaming business model with over 80 million US households and 270 million worldwide. They actually have the history of investing into their own content in the past couple of years, and they're way ahead of players like ESPN and Disney, Paramount Plus, Peacock. All those other streaming platforms are still in the beta stage of just making sure that streaming is profitable. They're trying to get it at that point. But Netflix now is showing that they're pivoting, because with live sports, they're also getting into the advertisement game. We're seeing them slowly roll that out with the different tiers. And with that type of advertising, it's a whole new ballpark because they can specifically target certain audiences. But tying back Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, they're helping Netflix felicitate all this proof of concept when it comes to the live sports business model.
I agree with that, but I'd look at one thing that's different as well. Netflix is a pure play. Netflix is an entertainment company.
Right.
Amazon and Apple are not at their core entertainment companies. And that provides, their other business provides them with one advantage. They have a whole lot more cash than Netflix does. On the
only thing with Apple, I would say their risk tolerance to brand exposure. They don't want to sign a deal with the NBA and then have their players be woke or not universal characters. Apple tends to only sign deals with people that have really, really big brands like a Oprah, a Obama, a Michael Jordan. They would do brand deals with those individuals because they have to be universal figures. They're not going to say too much. But with live sports, they're going to infuse that Apple brand with whatever's going on in the NFL, whatever's going on with the NBA. And the NBA is one of those sports leagues that whatever's happening culturally in America, it's reflected in that league. So that's why, in my opinion, I believe Apple is not necessarily going to get involved with the NBA. A pairing with MLB might make more sense for them. They're very brand conscious. They like to stick with things that are very brand safe. And that's why we really didn't see them have, and that's why we really didn't see Apple get involved in podcasting, even though they still today have the biggest podcast platform beyond Spotify when it comes to the number of users. But yet, they're not necessarily striking any deals with any podcasters because they don't want to get involved in other people's opinion. Once again, Apple's too brand conscious, man. They don't want to get involved with too many people unless you're an Obama, you're Oprah Winfrey, or you're Michael Jordan. You have to be on that type of level.
And Netflix has to win at the core business, and Apple and Amazon don't necessarily have to win at the core business.
They have to win at their core business.
Yes.
Amazon's core business. Netflix started sending people DVDs, excuse me, and you had to return one to get another. So I think Netflix has clearly evolved into a media content company. Would we be shocked if Netflix continued to evolve and maybe started having different offerings to its subscribers?
And that's part of the live sports. It's for Netflix to have an excuse to increase that bill. Next thing you know, people are going to be looking at their Netflix account being charged every single month over $100. That is the plan when they're going with live content.
They could, but it still feels to me like it's a pure play and they want to win. They know Amazon and Apple have the amount of cash and market value. If they wanted to, they could outbid them for anything. And I think you'll see by some calculations, and I'll cite Lucas Shaw in his Sunday night newsletter.
At Bloomberg.
Yep, at Bloomberg, did calculate that on hours watched, Netflix has more than half of the total hours. So they are winning big. I think this is a story worth our talking about sometime too. They are winning by a huge margin right now in terms of people's entertainment time. In fact, I think it was 75%.
Well, that's why I call them Goliath at the top, is because in all of the streaming wars, when it comes to just actual tonnage of viewership, Netflix is clearly the winner. And I want to point out that they're using that tonnage to then pay about $150 million for those two games for this year. What the consumer had been promised when it came to how this was going to go for you as a football fan, because I'm looking through the list, right? Okay, if I want to watch NFL games, I need to have an Amazon subscription. I need to have a Netflix subscription, a Peacock subscription, ESPN Plus, Sunday Ticket, perhaps via YouTube, and then, of course, access to the broadcast, the big broadcasters.
I'm so tired of this narrative. It bores me. I'm sorry to all the people who have to get all these subscriptions, but I remember when I couldn't watch a movie because I had HBO but not Cinemax, or I had Cinemax but not Showtime, and it was just life. There is no God-given right to watch every NFL game, and all the people complaining, oh, woe is me, I need these many streaming channels. Give me a small break.
Well, and I do note, Pablo, you said they were promised. Who promised?
By who?
They weren't promised by ESPN. We were
or Roger
busy raising our hand going, you're going to regret breaking the bundle up. I don't promise by whom. Rich Greenfield, I ain't promised them that they would get, that it would be cheaper when they got choice.
The promise of disruption, the promise of now you pay for what you want and here it is, and suddenly it's going to cost. I mean, David, as much as you are right in saying that, of course, it has never been, I guess it's always been weird in terms of like what you can and cannot access based on your assumptions as a consumer. Now it's just that much more decentralized is the point. Literally going to different apps and devices.
I believe, but again, I believe that people have been trained their whole lives that there were certain things they have access to and certain things they don't.
It depends on the generation. It depends on the generation. There's an audience right now that has been trained mostly on streaming, whether that's legally or illegally. And there's something with the smartphones where it actually has conditioned a lot of people to being accustomed to getting what they want when they want. You can order food, you can book your airline ticket, you can pay your bills. There's a lot of convenience that the smartphone has provided, and in a way it has spoiled the public at large. An example of this is the political theater that we see play out today. The reason why it seems so entertainment based and everyone's either on one side or the other is because everyone's stuck in their own algorithms in the smartphone. Whatever they believe, it always gets justified. It always gets force fed to them through the algorithm. And it's changed the average person's interaction when it comes to politics.
And we can take this all the way to who flies first class and who flies coach. There's who gets the suite in the hotel when you're a traveling team. There's just things that are. And to complain about it, be a better player. Negotiate it in your deal.
Be richer is what David is yelling at the American public.
Again, speaks to how passionate people are about sports. And to be fair to them on the NFL, wait a minute, to be fair to them on the NFL, Roger Goodell, not more, I don't think, than 3 years ago, said his intention was to continue to put all of his games on national broadcast networks, which are available for free.
But we just said things change.
They did. I didn't say it was wrong. I just sort of said, if you're a sports fan, you just heard 3 years ago that you're going to get them all for free. But again, Roger didn't promise the American public, and that will happen forever.
I own a share of stock of a company that is doing well in the third quarter of 23, and all of a sudden it does not do as well in 24. Do I get to call the CO? I could do a proxy fight. I could try to get him removed. But let me tell you, there's no guaranteed past performance is not indicative of future results.
Okay, so David, ever the litigant, you're right that there is no lawsuit, no class action suit on the basis of this alleged promise. A term of art, a figure of speech that I used for the expectations that sports fans have had forever, that this thing was going to be a thing that they could enjoy in ways that didn't feel exploitative. And I now just wonder if it's going to get to a point, John, where it feels like I just want to watch the games without being charged by every single tech company in the world.
I don't think that's going to go back to that. I don't think people are going to quit watching, and I don't think people will stop complaining. I think that's a pretty constant factor, too.
And you are seeing bundling. So what you're seeing are companies trying to say, all right, I know that you're going to have to get Netflix, but let me tell you, not only are you getting Christmas games, but you get every Kevin Hart movie ever made. You're going to get Happy Gilmore 2, TWOTOO, and you are getting all this benefit for Netflix. Amazon, you're going to get a game, but guess what else? You're going to get toilet paper, and it's going to get to you tomorrow, and it's going to be cheaper. So I think that what we're seeing is companies trying to explain to consumers why it's okay to do business, which is why, John, I believe that Netflix is not going to be so pure going forward, and I think they're going to look for different revenue streams to get more money out of their subscribers.
So the movement here, the evolution, is actually in a direction of everything old being new again, because by the way, guess what's coming back too? Commercials, advertising. So I want to just explain for everybody what it means when these tech companies are experimenting now with live sports, with live events, which means, by the way, advertising.
An extraordinary amount of ad revenue is now going to a few technology platforms. And I am not sure I understand yet, but assuming they have more data, which they do, than anybody else, they will actually be able to charge more money per ad than anybody else. All this means is that more and more money is going to move over to the big tech platforms.
AKA Google, Amazon, and I would say right now, Netflix is slowly building themselves up. Amazon is also building themselves up currently at the moment, and they do have the platform to host their own ads. In a way, they're trying to get into the search engine game the same way Google has it. But the main difference here is that if they get into the advertising game, it's a lot different than television, because initially it comes at a cheaper price point to get in, aka cable bill versus an Amazon subscription is a lot less, but now you're getting ads and it's going to be more targeted. They're going to be charging the advertisers on the back end a lot more money, but at the same time, they're going to incrementally keep charging you more and more and more on those subscriptions. And eventually it's going to end up looking like your cable bill. So in the future, more than likely, people's Netflix, Amazon subscriptions are going to be looking like cable bills. Plus, they're going to still be running ads. And at the same time, they're going to be charging advertisers double the fee, because unlike television, they could specifically target certain demographics with the ads that they exactly need. This shit is transitioning to a full technocratic world right now.
Netflix there as a tech platform.
And I think what's coming is not ad buys that are general ad buys. They're going to be so targeted, and that's the evolution that we've seen. And if anyone has social media and you look at your feed, there's a reason I have 17 carry-on suitcases and 49 toiletry kits, because I buy them and then they keep bringing me the best one. Here's the best one. And so that sort of targeting advertising, I would think that the leagues...
49 times you've decided to upgrade your toiletry kit?
What's going on?
Because of the way they hang and the different zipper components, and it doesn't drip and you don't have any leakage.
This will separate me and David once again.
Because you don't use a toiletries?
Loving friends. I use one of those plastic bags and put my toothpaste, deodorant in one of those plastic bags.
I can't tell if you're joking or not,
No,
but that's gross.
No, that's what I actually do. I thought you were supposed to do that, David, in the airport. You got to have one of those clear bags.
I never take my bags out. Yes, I do not. I'm excited for what I have been calling the Minority Report age to happen, which is when you walk into a store, they read your eye and say you have not bought jeans which are size 29 in 6 months. Walk to the left. We've got a pair of jeans for you in your size. And I think we are...
Assuming you didn't lose weight or gain weight.
Well, they're looking at you, and yes.
Yeah, leakage accounted for. But hold on, I want to give a quote here from the ad chief at Netflix, who says, quote, "Bringing our ad tech in-house will allow us to power the ads plan with the same level of excellence that's made Netflix the leader in streaming technology today," which is to say that the company is building an in-house advertising technology platform, giving marketers new ways to buy and measure and monetize the American mind.
You see why the Logan Paul-Mike Tyson fight has to happen, even if that shit's scripted. It is a great test run for them to run the ads, especially on people that have that lower tier plan. Because eventually the premium tier is going to cost more and more. And when that price point does go up, 7 to 8 out of 10 Netflix customers will be on that lower tier plan getting those ads. And that's exactly what they eventually want.
Well, before I talked, and I had not, but that's what I was trying to say, but much less eloquently.
That'll be great. We can see what other businesses they can run. They've run the newspaper publishing business out of business.
Yes.
The magazine business out of business. I don't know what's next. Radio, maybe. I mean,
but did you complain about typewriters being out of business? This is just progress.
No. Well, the only thing we don't want to get into here, but you do reach a point where the Justice Department at some point is going to have to decide if 2 or 3 companies owning 75% of the ad market is a good idea. It's always been about 18 to 34-year-olds.
And the problem is we age out of that.
Yeah.
But there's always 18 to 34. And so what you're saying you don't appreciate is companies, and I think you'd agree with this, they're okay with that.
Yeah, I read it. Oh, actually, I think maybe Scott Galloway said this, which is people just think they want choice. They actually want to be told what to do. They want to know, they want the computer to tell them what song to listen to next, what movie to watch next. I deliberately, if I get any toilet bag kit upgrades, I do not buy it.
And with Google dominating so much as they are right now with the ads, these companies are definitely fighting to get into the ad game because the streaming business model, at some point, it's going to hit a wall. The growth is going to be stagnant, and we have yet to really see an entertainment business model that does not include advertising dollars. So Netflix being the #1 player in streaming and being profitable, they're even showing that they have to diversify their portfolio outside of just reoccurring revenue through subscriptions. And the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight, along with the NFL deal and other live sports such as tennis, this is all going to get them into that business model of selling ads and touching those corporate dollars. But just going back to this fight, hopefully Mike Tyson's health is good, because this has probably gotten to a point where there's too much money on the line not to make this fight happen. And Mike Tyson previously being in debt, this could be a great way for him to fully not only get out of it, but to comfortably live out the rest of his years without making so many appearances. You can always tell when the legends of the past, whether it's boxing, basketball, etc., you can tell how well they're doing by how many appearances they keep making. And for Mike Tyson to have health issues on a commercial flight, constant travel at his age, especially for a lot of the damage that his body has taken throughout his boxing career. But the circus and the show must go on, as Jake Paul is going to take his show on the road in Tampa, Florida, and he's going to fight Mike Perry, a guy that's 5-0, but he just really converted into boxing from being an MMA fighter. And even his UFC record is only 7-8. Once again, they keep lining up easy wins for these guys. And even at that, some of the knockouts have been suspicious as fuck when it comes to the Logan brothers. Of course, we all know they come out of that Walt Disney tree. So there's a lot of the entertainment aspect tied into these guys. They're both actors. But on the business side, they're killing it. And for Netflix, this is too big of an opportunity for them to test out their streaming services to eventually get more into live sports. And for customers like me and you to look at our Netflix bill and be like, damn, this looks like my old cable bill. It's like $120 a month, because that's really the direction of where it's going. And there's going to be a lot of players coming into the game collecting the bags, like Logan Paul, Mike Tyson, the NFL, the NBA. They're going to get their money as Netflix is going to build their empire. So we'll see how this plays out. But when it comes to the Logan brothers, they have done a great job in building up their celebrity profiles to monetize it in the boxing world. And finally, I'm going to touch base on a topic I like to call inorganic inflation. And this will be volume 2. As previously, I spoke about how apartment rentals throughout all major cities, not only in the United States, but around the world, have actually been in collusion with companies that provide algorithms to let companies know when to put certain apartments on the market, how to price them. And it's led to rents just keep going higher and higher, even through the pandemic in certain cities. But that same blueprint has been applied to multiple areas in the economy. As desperate times breeds innovation, we've seen the gas companies during the pandemic, even though no one was going anywhere, gas's prices dipped, but compared to how much a barrel of oil was, the prices should have been even lower. But the collusion with the algorithm companies goes as far as us dealing with everyday products being affected. As recently we're hearing McDonald's, Starbucks, Walmart, Target. There's a lot of companies all of a sudden dropping their prices all around the same time. And that's just a few weeks before they have to report their quarterly earnings. But this is not ironic as inflation creeps up, but the prices in between stores kind of creep up at the same time, but not too crazy. But now with all these companies announcing that they're slashing prices, Amazon Fresh, IKEA, Target, Walgreens, the Sherman Act is being put to the test, as governments are always slow to catch up on to what's going on. But a great area with the Sherman Act is companies can't directly speak to each other and collude. But with the algorithm companies, they could sign up to a middleman, and that person could interpret the data and just let them all know how to price their items. This is sort of the gray area that they're tiptoeing around. And over the years, there have been countless lawsuits over this. And some of the responses during these lawsuits are quite interesting. As Caesars Entertainment in a lawsuit in Atlantic City, and the hotel is stating that they have no direct communications with their competitors. But in reality, it's the middleman that's providing all the information based off of their analytics and data that they give to that provider. This is where the laws are behind, because they're going to want evidence to see one company actually in contact with another, perhaps through email or phone calls or Zoom meetings. But all these entities signing up with one algorithm company, it definitely would cause one to speculate that they're price fixing. But make no mistake about it, part of this inflation has been a little bit of organic inflation mixed in with inorganic inflation. And in a post-pandemic world, a lot of companies are looking to make up for the losses of 2020. Desperate times breeds innovation, and it's about time some of these laws should catch up to these tactics. It is what it is. It doesn't matter where you are in the country. You could be in the middle of Nebraska, nowhere. They're going to estimate that the house you live in costs a lot more, thus your property taxes should go up. It's crazy out here. All kinds of games and gimmicks infused with a little bit of technology are making things look funny in the light. But until next time, you guys stay safe. Peace.